The Naval Amphibious Base at Coronado was a place of constant activity, operators training, equipment being tested, endless preparation for missions that could arise with little notice. Petty Officer First Class Jessica Hawthorne had been working at the base's primary shooting range for 3 years. She was 30 years old, had been in the Navy for 10 years, and was probably one of the most knowledgeable people on the base about ballistics, weapon systems, and range operations. She was also absolutely invisible. Jessica's job was range management. She maintained the shooting facilities, set up targets, repaired equipment, and especially at the end of each day, swept the range clean. It was essential work. The Navy SEALs couldn't train without properly maintained ranges, but the work didn't come with recognition or advancement, and most people barely noticed it. What they noticed was the operators, the SEALs, the people conducting the high-profile training. The invisible people who made that training possible didn't factor into the narrative. Jessica had accepted this as the nature of military work a long time ago. She did her job well. She took pride in her work, and she didn't expect anyone to recognize that pride or that excellence. But lately, something had been bothering her. Something about the constancy of the invisibility. Something about the sense that she had skills and knowledge that were being wasted in a role that would never lead anywhere. It was a Wednesday morning when Jessica first noticed the problem. One of the operators, a lieutenant named Marcus Wellington, had been shooting, and his groups were off. Not dramatically off, but consistently low and slightly to the right. It was the kind of problem that would bother someone who understood precision shooting, but which someone who didn't understand ballistics might not even notice. Jessica was resetting targets when Wellington mentioned it to one of the range personnel. "My groups are off," Wellington said. "I think there might be an issue with the weapon." The range personnel, a junior sailor, didn't know what to do with that information. He suggested that Wellington contact the armory. But Jessica had overheard the conversation, and she knew exactly what the problem probably was. She had seen this pattern before. She understood the mechanics of how weapon systems worked. She approached Wellington cautiously. Approaching an officer when you were enlisted was always a matter of reading the situation carefully. "Sir, if I may," Jessica said, "I overheard that your groups are off. I've seen that pattern before. It's usually one of a few specific issues." Wellington looked at her with the expression of someone noticing her for the first time. "What kind of issues?" For the next 20 minutes, Jessica walked Wellington through the possibilities. She examined his rifle. She asked about his shooting position. She asked about the ammunition. She checked the scope mounting. The problem, when she found it, was subtle. The scope had shifted slightly during the previous day's shooting. The shift was small, less than a quarter inch, but it was enough to cause exactly the kind of groups Wellington was experiencing. "This is it," Jessica said. "The scope needs to be re-zeroed." "How did you know that?" Wellington asked. "I've worked with range equipment for 10 years, Jessica said. "You learn to recognize patterns." Wellington had her re-zero the scope herself. It was technically not within her job description. That was supposed to be done by range personnel or operators themselves. But Wellington recognized that Jessica knew what she was doing, and he trusted her with his weapon. When the re-zero was complete, Wellington fired several test rounds. His groups were tight again. "Thank you," Wellington said. "Seriously, that was exactly the problem." "That's what I'm here for," Jessica said. But even as she said it, she understood something that had been nagging at her for months. She wasn't really here to troubleshoot operator weapons. She was here to sweep and maintain. The fact that she could diagnose and fix complex problems was secondary to her actual job. That afternoon, after the operators had left the range, Jessica was sweeping when a voice interrupted her work. "You know what you're doing with weapon systems." Jessica looked up. It was Chief Warrant Officer James Garrison, the base's senior sniper instructor, one of the finest marksmen in the entire naval special warfare community. a man whose reputation for precision shooting was known across the military. "Yes, sir," Jessica said. "I've studied ballistics and weapons systems over the years." "Have you ever thought about actually doing sniper work?" Garrison asked. The question caught Jessica off guard. "Sir." "Sniper work," Garrison repeated. "Taking shots, leading a sniper team. Have you ever thought about it?" "I haven't thought it was possible," Jessica said. "I'm not a SEAL, I'm range support." "But you could be a SEAL," Garrison said. "And you could be a damn good sniper, based on what I've observed. You understand ballistics at a level that most people never achieve. You understand weapon systems, and you have a calmness under pressure. I've watched you work through complex problems without getting flustered." He paused. "Sniper training starts in 3 months. I'm recommending people for the program. I think you should apply." After Garrison left, Jessica stood alone on the range, sweeping mechanically while her mind raced. The suggestion that she could become a sniper, that she could move from sweeping ranges to taking shots, felt both exciting and impossible. That evening, Jessica called her father, who was retired Navy and who had always been her sounding board for military career decisions. "He asked me if I wanted to be a sniper," Jessica said without preamble. "Who?" her father asked. "Chief Garrison, the senior sniper instructor. He said I should apply for sniper training." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then her father said, "Jessica, are you considering it?" "I don't know," Jessica said. "It seems crazy. I've been doing range maintenance for 3 years. I don't know how to be a sniper." "You do know how to understand complex systems," her father said. "You do know how to remain calm under pressure. You do know ballistics. Those are core skills for sniping. The specific techniques, you can learn those." "But I'd have to leave this job," Jessica said. "I'd have to take a risk on something I'm not sure I can do." "And if you don't take the risk, what happens?" her father asked. "You stay in your current position doing good work that no one recognizes, which is a choice, but it's not a growth choice." Jessica spent the next 3 weeks thinking about what Garrison had suggested. She studied sniper techniques. She reviewed ballistics formulas. She analyzed precision shooting at extreme distances. And she thought about what it would mean to leave a position where she was competent and valued, even if that value was invisible. Finally, she went to Garrison's office and told him she was interested in sniper training. Garrison's response was immediate and supportive. He helped her understand what the training would entail. He walked her through the selection process, and he made it clear that he believed she could succeed. 3 months later, Jessica began advanced sniper training. Sniper training was different from range maintenance. For one thing, it was formal, structured, with clear objectives and measurable progress. For another, it was focused entirely on precision, on understanding and executing at the highest possible level. Jessica excelled. Her understanding of ballistics translated directly into superior performance. Her ability to analyze complex systems became the ability to analyze and execute complex shooting problems. Her calmness under pressure became the ability to remain focused during high-stress simulations. But there was also resistance. Some of the other sniper candidates seemed to question how a woman from range maintenance had gotten into the program. Some made jokes about the range sweeper, who thought she could be a sniper. Jessica ignored the jokes. She focused on her training, and she was consistently one of the top performers in every evolution. Chief Garrison watched her progress with something that looked like satisfaction. He would occasionally pull her aside during training to offer specific feedback or to ask her to help teach other candidates a particular concept. "You've got an intuitive understanding of how these systems work," Garrison said one day. "Most people have to be taught everything. You understand the logic underlying the techniques. That's rare." By the end of training, Jessica had earned her sniper certification. It was a credential that opened doors. It was also a credential that changed how people looked at her. She returned to the range, but now she was there as a sniper instructor, not as range maintenance. She was responsible for training junior SEALs in precision marksmanship. She was responsible for maintaining the technical standards of sniper operations. And she was no longer invisible. Operators who had previously barely acknowledged her now asked her for advice on their shooting. Commanders sought her expertise when they were planning operations that required precision work. She was included in planning meetings. She was consulted on equipment decisions. The change happened gradually, but it was unmistakable. Jessica went from being the person who maintained the range to being the person whose expertise defined how the range was used. A year after completing sniper training, Jessica was assigned to a combat deployment. She worked as part of a sniper team in a complex operation, providing overwatch and precision support to tactical operations. She made shots at distances that required millimeter-perfect calibration. She made decisions that affected lives and outcomes. And she was excellent. When she returned from deployment, she was promoted and assigned to lead sniper training at a different base. It was a position of significant authority. She was no longer the person being trained. She was the person training others. 5 years after Chief Garrison had asked her if she wanted to be a sniper, Jessica was back at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. She was now a Chief Petty Officer, one of the most senior enlisted ranks. She was the head of sniper operations for the entire base, and she was in a position to make decisions that affected training, equipment, and operations. One afternoon, as she was setting up for a training evolution, she noticed a young sailor sweeping the range. The sailor was probably in her early 20s, fresh to the Navy, doing the kind of work that Jessica had done years ago. During a break in training, Jessica approached the sailor. "How long have you been assigned to range maintenance?" Jessica asked. "3 months, ma'am," the sailor said, straightening up and noticing Jessica's rank. "What's your name?" Jessica asked. "Petty Officer 3rd Class, Michelle Rodriguez, ma'am." "At ease, Rodriguez," Jessica said. "I'm Chief Hawthorne, and I worked this exact job sweeping this range, for 3 years before I became a sniper." Rodriguez looked at her with an expression of surprise and something that might have been hope. "You were sweeping the range?" Rodriguez asked. "I was," Jessica said, "and I didn't think I'd ever be anything else. Then someone asked me if I'd thought about sniper work, and that question changed everything." She paused. "I'm not telling you that you have to be a sniper. Sniper training isn't for everyone. But I am telling you that the work you're doing now doesn't define the limit of what you can do. If you want to do something different, you should explore it." That afternoon, Jessica conducted an advanced sniper training evolution with a group of operators who were preparing for a complex operation. She walked them through wind calculations, shot planning, and the psychological aspects of precision work under extreme conditions. As she was teaching, she was aware of Rodriguez watching from the periphery, doing her job of maintaining the range, but also observing how sniper operations actually worked. After the training, as Jessica was reviewing the day's results, Chief Garrison approached. He was older now, several years from retirement, but he still maintained his position as the base's most senior sniper advisor. "You've come a long way from sweeping this range," Garrison said. "I have," Jessica said, "and I'm aware that I might never have made that journey if you hadn't asked the right question at the right time." "How many times have you asked that question to someone else?" Garrison asked. "A few," Jessica said. "I try to look for people with the kind of knowledge and composure that suggests they might be capable of sniper work. When I see those qualities, I mention the possibility. Some people are interested, some aren't, but at least I'm giving them the option." "That's good," Garrison said. "That's how you change systems, one conversation at a time." A week later, Rodriguez requested a meeting with Jessica. The sailor came to her office looking nervous but determined. "I want to apply for sniper training," Rodriguez said, "if you think I'm capable." "What makes you think you're capable?" Jessica asked. "Because you said I might be," Rodriguez said. "Because you were where I am and you became one of the best snipers in the Navy. And if you could do it, maybe I can too." Jessica looked at this young sailor and saw herself from 5 years ago, uncertain, hopping, willing to take a risk. "Okay," Jessica said. "Let me help you prepare for the selection process." Over the next 3 months, Jessica mentored Rodriguez. She helped her study ballistics. She worked with her on dry fire practice. She taught her about the psychology and discipline required for sniper work, and she prepared her for the physical and mental demands of sniper training. When Rodriguez was accepted into sniper training, Jessica made a point of being present when her certification was awarded. Rodriguez had made it through. She was now part of the same community that had seemed impossible just months before. "Thank you," Rodriguez said to Jessica after the certification ceremony, "for believing in me, for asking the question, for helping me see a path forward." Years passed. Jessica rose through the ranks to become a senior chief petty officer. She was recognized as one of the most respected sniper instructors in the naval special warfare community. Her expertise was sought after. Her judgment was valued. Her leadership was transforming how sniper training was conducted. But what Jessica was most proud of was not her own advancement. It was the people she had helped. Rodriguez had become an excellent sniper and had recommended 3 other people for sniper training, all of whom had succeeded. Jessica had mentored dozens of operators who were now conducting advanced sniper operations. One afternoon, 15 years after Chief Garrison had first asked her if she wanted to be a sniper, Jessica was at the range conducting an advanced training evolution when a commanding officer approached. It was Admiral James Patterson, the senior commander of Naval Special Warfare Operations for the entire Pacific region. "Senior Chief Hawthorne," the Admiral said, "I've been reading reports about your sniper training program, commendations about your techniques, feedback from operators who have trained under your instruction, and I wanted to observe your work personally." Jessica conducted the training evolution with the Admiral watching. She walked operators through complex scenarios. She taught them decision-making frameworks for long-distance shooting. She demonstrated technical expertise that went beyond just teaching marksmanship. She was teaching operators how to think like snipers. When the training was complete, Admiral Patterson asked to speak with her privately. "Senior Chief Hawthorne," the Admiral said, "I've been in the Navy a long time, and I've observed something interesting about your career trajectory. You started as range maintenance personnel. You had no formal training in sniper operations, and yet you've become one of the most respected sniper instructors in the naval special warfare community." "Thank you, sir," Jessica said. "How did that happen?" the Admiral asked. "How did you make that transition?" "Chief Garrison asked me if I wanted to try," Jessica said. "I said yes. I worked hard, and I was fortunate to have mentors who believed in me." "That's a remarkable story," the Admiral said. "And it's also a story that needs to be told. Because what you've done, what you've accomplished, it challenges assumptions about who can succeed, about what success looks like, about how people move through military organizations." The Admiral paused. "I'm recommending you for a position on the Naval Special Warfare Training Command Staff. It would be a promotion to Master Chief Petty Officer. Your role would be to oversee sniper training across multiple bases, to develop curriculum, and to mentor the next generation of sniper instructors." Jessica felt something shift in her understanding of her own career. This wasn't just advancement. This was recognition that her journey, from sweeping the range to becoming an expert, from being invisible to being seen, had value beyond just her own career. "Thank you, sir," Jessica said. "More than that," the Admiral continued, "I want you to understand something. When I looked at sniper training across the naval special warfare community, I noticed something. The programs that were producing the best operators, the ones with the highest qualification rates and the best performance in actual operations, those were the programs being led by people like you. People who had unconventional paths to their positions. People who understood the value of merit over tradition. He looked at her directly. Your presence in leadership is changing the Navy, not through policy directives, but through demonstrated excellence. By showing that the best person for the job isn't always the person with the most traditional background. As Master Chief of the Naval Special Warfare Training Command, Jessica oversaw sniper training for the entire community. She implemented new curriculum. She mentored sniper instructors at multiple bases. She published research on sniper training methodologies that was adopted across the military. But she also made sure that every person working in range maintenance, in equipment support, in the invisible roles, understood that their work mattered. And she made sure that anyone with potential was aware that advancement was possible if they were willing to take the risk. Part 5, The Moment. 20 years after Chief Garrison had asked her if she wanted to be a sniper, Jessica stood at the podium at the Naval Special Warfare Command Annual Training Conference. She was there to address the gathered sniper instructors, operators, and leadership from across the community. I want to tell you about the moment that changed my career, Jessica began. I was sweeping a shooting range. That was my job. I maintained equipment. I set up targets. I kept the range clean. And I thought that was what I would be doing for the rest of my military career. She paused, looking out at the faces in the audience. Then someone, a man named Chief Warrant Officer James Garrison, asked me a question. He asked if I had ever thought about being a sniper. It was a simple question, but it changed everything. Jessica told the story of her transition from range maintenance to sniper. She talked about the training, the challenges, the moments when she questioned whether she belonged. She talked about the joy of excellence, of doing work that she loved, of being recognized for her capabilities. But there's something else I want to talk about, Jessica continued. Something that's equally important to my own journey, and that's the responsibility that comes with advancement. When you achieve success, when you reach a position of authority, you have a responsibility to ask the right questions of the people around you. You have a responsibility to look for potential in people who might be invisible in their current roles. She talked about Rodriguez, who had gone from sweeping the range to becoming a senior sniper instructor. She talked about the dozens of other people she had mentored, people who had made the transition from support roles to operational roles. If Chief Garrison hadn't asked me the right question at the right time, Jessica said, I would probably still be sweeping ranges. I would be doing good work, important work, but work that would never be recognized or valued in the way that operational work is valued. My entire career would have been different. She paused for emphasis. And now I ask that question for other people. And when I see people responding positively to that question, I help them pursue that path, because I remember what it was like to be invisible. I remember what it was like to have skills and knowledge that went unused. I remember what it was like to believe that advancement was something that happened to other people, not to me. After the conference, Jessica returned to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado for a final inspection of the facilities. She walked the range where she had swept for 3 years. The range looked the same as it always had, the same equipment, the same targets, the same facility. But everything about how it functioned was different. The training standards were higher. The curriculum was more sophisticated. The people conducting the training were better prepared. And the people working in support roles, the ones sweeping the range, maintaining equipment, doing the invisible work, they all knew that advancement was possible. They all understood that their work was valued. They all had a path forward if they wanted to pursue it. As Jessica was leaving the range, she noticed a young sailor sweeping near the equipment storage area. The sailor looked up and recognized her rank. "Senior Chief Hawthorne," the sailor said. At ease, Jessica said, "What's your name?" "Petty Officer Third Class Trevor Jackson, ma'am." "Jackson, I worked this job once," Jessica said. "Sweeping this range, maintaining this equipment. I thought it was what I would do for my entire career. But then someone asked me if I wanted to do something different, and I said yes, and my life changed." She paused. "I don't know if you're interested in doing something different, but I want you to know that if you are, the path exists, and if you want help pursuing it, you should ask. Okay?" Jackson nodded, hope evident in his expression. Jessica walked away from the range, understanding that her work wasn't finished. It would never be finished. There would always be people in invisible roles who had potential they didn't recognize in themselves. There would always be a need for someone to ask the right question at the right time. That was her legacy now. Not just the fact that she had risen from sweeping a range to becoming a senior leader in the naval special warfare community, but the fact that she was using her position and her authority to create space for others to do the same. 5 years later, when Jessica retired from the Navy, she had trained dozens of sniper instructors, mentored hundreds of operators, and directly created opportunities for over 50 people to transition from support roles to operational roles. Many of those people had gone on to become leaders themselves. At her retirement ceremony, Admiral Patterson made remarks about Jessica's contributions to the Navy and to the naval special warfare community. But what he emphasized most was not her technical expertise or her operational success. "Senior Chief Hawthorne represents something important," the Admiral said. "She represents the reality that the best people for the job aren't always the people with the most traditional backgrounds. She represents the power of asking the right question at the right time, and she represents the responsibility that comes with success, the responsibility to help others find the same path that you found." He paused. Senior Chief Hawthorne started her career sweeping a shooting range. She ends her career as one of the most respected leaders in the naval special warfare community. But more importantly, she spent her career making sure that other people didn't have to wait as long as she did to be recognized and valued for their potential. As Jessica stood to accept the applause, she thought about Chief Garrison. She thought about that moment when he had asked if she wanted to be a sniper. She thought about how a single question, asked at the right time, had changed everything. And she thought about the responsibility she had tried to fulfill. The responsibility to ask that same question for others. The responsibility to look for potential in people who were invisible. The responsibility to use her position and authority to help create space for others to succeed. The work of changing a system, of creating a military organization where advancement was based on capability rather than tradition, where invisible people were recognized for their value, where potential was discovered and developed. That work was long. It required persistence. It required believing in people before they believed in themselves. But it was possible. Jessica's own career proved that it was possible. And the dozens of people she had helped mentor, the hundreds of operators who had benefited from her training, the entire naval special warfare community that was stronger because of her leadership, all of that proved that transformation could happen. Not through mandate from the top, not through dramatic gestures, but through one question asked at the right time, through one person believing in another person's potential, through one person who had been invisible using her position to help others stop being invisible. That was the real legacy.